Great. So here we are for our March edition, and today we're going to be talking just a general hockey update, and we're also going to be talking about trades and sports media. So we'll start out with our hockey roundup, and the first thing is last night's game. Fortune's Calgary Flames pulled a Dolly Parton 9-5 on the Oilers, and
Isn't
I didn't sing it.
Divide.
Luckily for everyone. There's been a lot of goals scored in the NHL lately. So and there's different ideas about why this might be. It could be fatigue because of the compressed schedule. It could be maybe leftover COVID fatigue. So what do we think about high scoring games? Do you want to talk first, Fortune, about this? Do we like them?
I love them. I'd watch a 9-5 game over like I'd watch a 3-2 game over a 0-1 game. I don't know. I think for the casual hockey fan, it's more fun when it's when there's more scoring, because you get to get up and cheer and yell and make bets with the Oilers fans that are sitting in front of you. It's definitely more fun than the 1-0 where it's dump it in over here, dump it in over there. I don't miss those days.
For that, yeah. And I guess I'll ask you, Kelly, would you rather your team won by a lot of goals, or do you enjoy a close game more?
No, I'm with Fortune. I really like lots of goals. I mean, as a viewer, right, as a hockey fan, she's right. It makes the game more exciting. You get to cheer a lot. It's I went to, I think I've only been to one actual live game this season, and there were a whole lot of goals, and it was so fun.
Yeah.
And I think the Jets did another. They played against Toronto. Was it? No, it wasn't. Yeah. There was a Toronto-Detroit game. That's what it was. That ended up to be 10-7. That's crazy.
Yeah.
When it gets up to 10 goals, I start to go, oh, okay, enough.
Yeah, you do feel sorry for the goalies, and I think they pulled the Oilers goalie, right? They changed goalies at one point in the game last night. So
anyway. Did they yank him? Yeah.
Yeah, and do that. And the other thing I was going to ask about is in Canada we have something that if one player scores 5 goals, somebody wins $1 million. Now it used to be Safeway, but now it's Save On. Do you guys have that in the States?
I don't think so.
You guys have a football one when there's a football version of it's the same game. It's score and win, and then they do it for football. Yeah,
to do that because it almost happened in Winnipeg. It
did happen in Winnipeg.
No, I thought he only scored 4.
No, it did long time ago.
Yeah, it was a couple of years ago. Patrick Laine got 5 goals.
Oh, and so somebody won $1 million?
And somebody won $1 million.
Oh, that's right. He was a priest or something, because he said, thank God, and Patrick Laine.
Yeah. That's the only time I know of that it's happened.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with that. I know the Flyers used to have a deal with Papa John's, and it was if the Flyers won the game the next day, you could get off half off your order on papajohns.com. Yeah. We've done stuff like that, but I've never heard of anything
Well, what do you think, Stacey? Do you have any ideas why scoring is up, or theories?
I'm not sure. I think it depends on the team and what's going on. Gerard Gallant talked about the Rangers lost to the Devils because the Rangers were exhausted both mentally and physically after the 2 games, after the Tampa game. And, so yeah, definitely there's a lot of exhaustion, but also I'm kind of the weird person where I like both shutouts and I like huge scoring games both, because I think when you're talking about a shutout, especially watching a goalie, put on a show when it's 1-0 and you're just you're watching them stop everything. It's masterful. It's not the same excitement as 7-4 or 7-5, or 9-5, but because it's a different degree of excitement because you're watching this goaltender. You want to see the best goalie in the league, or one of the best goalies in the league, give a great performance on the ice when you're there, and you're just come on, and that you're sitting on the edge of your seat. Please, like, don't say the word. Don't don't jinx it. Just please.
Don't even think it.
Exactly. And like, you're sitting there and you're like, to the, at the end of the third period, and like the seconds are ticking off the clock, and you're just like, please, no. And you're watching them and you're going, your heart is like pounding against your chest, and you're like, please,
Yeah, especially at the end, the last 2 minutes of a game, that's a shutout, right? Because then you're like really rooting for that goalie to get his shutout.
But when you watch a team that's as uneven as the Canucks, every game is suspenseful, because you're like no lead is big enough. You're like, oh no, 2 goals, that's not enough. We need more to be ahead by more goals. Is that the
exactly
same?
how it is watching the Flyers? It's like, oh, we're up 2 goals, need 5 more.
I feel like every team has gone through that sometime at some point, because the Flames were like that too, because they could be up 7-2 and you're like, well, there's still a period left.
You don't get to say that this year, Fortune, because you guys are
no, we don't. Yeah, I'm kind of gearing up for this playoff run. Like, they're all in, so I'm pretty pumped.
Yeah. And well, maybe I'll switch up, since we're talking about trades now. We'll talk a bit more about it, but let's talk about the Dadonov voided trade. The Las Vegas Golden Knights tried to trade him, but apparently they didn't read the fine print, and now he's back and he scored the game-winning goal yesterday, and so everyone likes him. But what was interesting, I think, was how little sympathy the Las Vegas had. Like, they screwed up and people were like, too bad, So do you agree with those feelings about Las Vegas? Are they the most hated team in the NHL right now? Or are there teams you hate a lot more because they're the enemy of your team?
Well, I think Vegas takes a very different approach to how they grow their roster. So like the Jets have, their approach has always been draft and develop. So they often are trading for draft picks, and they're getting these young guys in that they supposedly develop into being, star players, or hopefully good players at least. Yeah. But Vegas takes a whole different approach. Like, and they're just throwing money around like crazy. So I think that's maybe why people are kind of like, look what happened.
To do that. Yeah, because they were way over the cap once they signed Eichel, yet and then they were sort of tottering that maybe they would even make the playoffs. So you couldn't bring somebody back after that. And also, like, everybody likes Marc-Andre Fleury. And then like plus people they've said, come in and be the face of our franchise. I think Nate Schmidt was the same, they loved him, and then suddenly they were trading him because something better. So it's just like, your husband goes to Vegas and finds something better and then boots you out. I don't know. So tell me who your most hated team in the NHL is. Fortune?
Sorry, I just wanted to say something about the Golden Knights, because they changed it, right, for the Kraken, how like the Golden Knights got to have like pick from it, like they got players from every team, and then they had to change it because they were so good. So I think there's a little bit of that in their legacy. But for most hated teams, I think it's going to be Vancouver. I'm really sorry. It's always Vancouver.
We've always had an enmity. I mean, the difficulty is you both have to be good at the same time for it to be a real battle. But otherwise you're just like beating down on like the Flames while they were bad and the Canucks were good. And now it's,
I also don't like Tampa still. It's been many, 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 many years. It hurts. It still hurts.
Yeah, that's like Boston for me. Stacey, what do you think? Do you have thoughts about the Knights too? Or you just want to talk about who you hate?
So I definitely agree with Fortune, because she brought up the whole sort of altering of the entire expansion process because of what happened with Vegas, and sort of what that meant for teams to follow. Like, I do think they should have been better about their due diligence, because I think that's another part of it. Like, if another team had like managed to completely mess that up, depending on who it was, like for example, Tampa, because you know they've gotten away with some stuff recently. So like if they did it, there would be a similar reaction. You know, the sort of some of the anger for Vegas definitely because of like how they broke the expansion system. But as for teams I do not like, I tend to I have general sort of issues with certain teams for reasons, and you know, I still have a grudge against Tampa for a couple of different reasons. I also have a tenuous relationship with New Jersey. I have very serious issues generally with them, but they gave the Riveters back their banner, so I'm okay with them. Boston, I have tenuous issues, but I will say, because I am a New Yorker, it's kind of in my blood. But what I will say tonight is that I am wearing the Isabel Cup Champion Pride shirt from last year. And this year, I will say that they made it into playoffs. They made it into the finals, so they're going to be playing the Toronto Six, which I'm excited about. Did I miss anyone? Oh, I did not miss anybody. Okay. Oh, and I feel bad for Brett Pesce on Carolina because the trade deadline brought some people that are not necessarily my favorite players onto that team. So.
Okay. Lots of innuendo and
yes.
Okay, Danica, but
I have like no feelings about Vegas. Like I'm on the East Coast, so I don't really pay attention to the Western Conference all that much.
Did Tampa bother you when they brought a player in? It's just like,
well, Pat Maroon is on their team, so I kind of like want to root for him because he was drafted by the Flyers, so I do like him. So I don't really care. I don't know. But I hate the Devils because of Scott Stevens. Yeah, I'm still mad at the Red Wings for 1997. And I hate the Penguins. So like it's just you're not allowed to like the Penguins if you like the Flyers, and you're not allowed to like the Flyers if you like the Penguins, which is very hard being from Pennsylvania. Because like my partner, his family's all from like the West Virginia area, and that's actually really close to Pittsburgh. So they're all Penguins fans. So they all make fun of me. And they're actually good, and like Flyers suck.
What about Chicago?
Oh yeah, I definitely don't want to talk about 2010 at all.
Okay.
They like re-aired that game recently, and Chris Pronger was like, "Don't remind me."
Yeah, I can't believe it was the same. I think they played the Boston-Vancouver final, like when there was no hockey or something. And then
yeah,
like, why are you putting it in this market? Do you think anybody's gonna watch it? Okay, who are the enemies of the Jets, Kelly?
Well, I don't know. They try to make a big rivalry between the Jets and Minnesota, kind of, because it geographically they're close, and they play each other quite a few times. And there have been some pretty intense games between those two teams this year. I can't say that I hate any team. I'll hold a grudge for a little while, like for the team that knocks us out of the playoffs. So I think one year was Nashville, and then I was kind of like, I don't like Nashville for a couple of years, and then I kind of forgot about it. I think Vegas knocked us out once, and who else knocked us out? Whatever. I'll hold a grudge for a couple of seasons, but that's about it.
Perfect. Okay. Just like all Winnipeggers, she's so nice.
So nice. Yeah.
Okay, now on to something a little more serious. It is the war in Ukraine. And at the risk of sounding like a Toronto Maple Leafs fan, what is the effect of the war on hockey? Because in Canada, the joke is, how does this affect the Maple Leafs? Is like how the thing is phrased. So I'll just say, like, we think about hockey that way. So a lot of non-Russian players have left. I know initially Elliot Friedman reported that people weren't going to leave because they were told they would not get paid, even though it was the playoffs. They wouldn't get paid their contract at all if they left before the playoffs. But then I think some governments, I know the Canadian government was telling people, you have to leave because we can't guarantee, you know, that you can get out later. So while there's commercial flights, you should go. So lots of people left. I think it was, I read it was 2/3 of their contract they would have to give up if they left before the end of the season. Two teams, Jokerit in Finland and Dynamo Riga in Latvia, both also left the KHL. And also in Western Canada, which has, I think, one of the biggest Ukrainian populations outside the Ukraine.
They're all right here.
Ovechkin was getting booed like at when the Washington Capitals played. Did they play Manitoba?
Yeah.
Oh, they played Alberta. So
No, they played, I think it was Calgary, wasn't it?
They played Calgary and they play both because they always do like a circuit. Yeah, but yes.
Mm-hmm. So what are our thoughts about that? Have we seen anything happening in our own arenas, or I haven't seen other Russian players being booed here, but we only have, I think, one. So
yeah, I don't know about Ovechkin. Like, I don't think that's really, you know, it brings up a lot of issues about, you know, Ovechkin isn't one of the oligarchs. He's not Putin, and then like you can't just like boo him because of his nationality, because then it kind of goes back to the whole like these, you know, Japanese concentration camps. Like you can't go there with that. Like he's just minding his own business and he's doing his job. And he doesn't, just because he's Russian and very like, and he looks Russian and he's like the Russian face of the NHL, you can't just assume that he's a bad person.
But I don't think that's true. I think like could ask Stacey, but like Panarin wasn't being booed, but I think it's because Ovechkin's Instagram picture is him and Putin together, and he has been kind of on Team Putin, so he is known to be a strong supporter of Putin. So I don't think it's a generic all Russians. I think it was specifically him.
Very specific. Like
I didn't know that.
There is a guy who I follow on Twitter who is a former sports reporter, currently a math teacher, a guy by the name of Slava Malamud. Really, really interesting. And he is, the way that he has sort of framed and discussed the questions about Ovechkin are fantastic. I won't be able to like summarize it. So I'm just going to say, go follow him and read his threads and discussions about like the questions that he has. You know, but I mean, I remember like when Panarin became a Ranger, he spoke out and it was a whole thing because his family was in danger. Like it was a whole thing. Like he had to leave the team for a couple of weeks because of what happened, because of his words. He's been, you know, quiet since, obviously, but we know like who you know, where who stands. And it's an interesting sort of question, but it's also, yes, like if, you know, if Ovechkin hadn't been so obviously, you know, pro Putin and sort of tied himself to Putin, like if you randomly boo, say, like, just because I saw an article before I came on of Jaymee Malkin, who is not as visibly pro Putin, and like you booed him randomly like with that reason, yeah, that's a problem. You know, not, you know, like, because this I want to say his Twitter is Jewish Wonk, but he pointed out he writes for the Forward. I want to say his name is Alex, and he's talking about like, and like he's one of the many people who stress the point of like, you know, like the Russian immigrants in the United States, the people who speak Russian, you know, they're not all like pro Putin, and that sort of ties into what you were saying, Fortune, about like keep random Russians, like you've got to be careful, but like once you have the evidence, then it's like, you know, then you got to do something about it.
And I do think that, I mean, we're lucky here in terms of, you know, being able to speak freely, but even if you do feel strongly about Putin, but you have family in Russia, I don't think you are free to say exactly what you want to say, because anything could happen to your family.
Yeah, that's, I think, been one of the reasons that they've said that some of these players don't want to speak out because they are afraid for their families in Russia.
Yeah, and I think even Ovechkin said that. He said, "My wife and kids are in Russia right now. I don't want to speak on this," because he was, getting asked a lot by reporters.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think the other thing that happened is that the Russian ruble has really gone down. So I do think a lot of players from other countries are probably going to think twice before going back to the KHL next season. So we'll see what happens to that in the league and everything. And plus, if there's financial issues, the teams themselves may have problems. I don't know.
Yeah, we have to remember, like, it's with Russia, like they have a lot of money. So, like, we know that Brittany Griner she plays in Russia because as a woman, she gets as much money as LeBron James does. So, I was reading an article about how much, they called it sports washing, like kind of laundering the ethical money of the Russian oligarchs. So you got what's it called? You got Chelsea Football Club, who's owned by a Russian oligarch. You've got NASCAR and F1 teams. So I think it's definitely going to change. It's not just Ovechkin. Like, it's going to really change what hockey or what the sports landscape is going to look like, I think, in the next couple of years, just depending on what's going to play out with what's happening in Ukraine.
It happens, yeah. Okay. Well, now does anyone have any other things they'd like to add about that? Okay, so we'll move on to trades. So I guess in summary, there was only really two big trades. Marc-Andre Fleury going to Minnesota, and poor Danica, who was expecting this for months, really. Claude Giroux said that he wanted to go to Florida. I think he told management. And I believe that Florida played hardball a bit. So I'll get Danica to talk about if she thought they got enough for the trade and how she feels about the trade.
We met.
I heard that Colorado made a better offer. I don't know if that's true.
G had a no move clause. He signed like an 8-year, and it's up this year. So he didn't have to approve any trade because he rightfully had no move. And he would basically all of the reports I saw said that, like, he would only approve to Florida. He didn't want to go to Colorado. He didn't want to go he rejected offers to the Rangers and to Boston. I don't know particularly why he wanted to go to Florida, but I mean, they're a pretty good team right now. So, but yeah, I don't think they got a good return from him. Even if they're saying like Florida kind of knew and had the upper hand, you're the GM, you should have figured it out and had negotiated better. 3 players went to Florida, so it wasn't just Giroux. The other ones were contract dumps. Like, they weren't really, I didn't really feel like those were a big loss, but then all we got back was Owen Tippett and some picks, and some of them are conditional picks. So I'm like, so I just didn't think it was good.
Not a high pick even.
Yeah. They weren't great. It wasn't great. I mean, and like, I feel bad because a lot of people are being like nasty to G about it. And I was like, no, he earned his time in this city to be able to go wherever he wants. He had no move. He didn't want to move. And he's just going to be a rental. But like, people want him to re-sign like next year after like the offseason. And I'm like, I don't think he should. Like, he should just move on with his career. He did 15 years in Philly. I think it was really hard for a lot of people like myself because he's only ever played for the Flyers. He's been here for 15 years. He's been our captain for a really long time. So a lot of us, like, he's only a couple of years older than me. So it's like, I feel like I've almost like grown up with him a little bit, like watching him over the years, and like, he's just like older and more mature now. So it was really hard. Like, the trade really hit me really hard because it's just like, he's like the face of the franchise, and like, oh, what do we do now? So like, and like, Grady's whole thing is like being Claude's like best friend. So it's like kind of weird. I don't think the return was good at all. And like,
but I guess it's better than nothing. Like, if he refused to trade and you got 0 and then he left. But anyway, I heard Ottawa is a possible destination.
I think he is from Ottawa, that area. So that kind of would make sense to me.
Yeah, to do that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And do we think that the trades have improved? Teams at Calgary actually made a lot of trades before the trade deadline and seem to. What teams do we think are better now after, I guess not the trade deadline, but all March, all the trades that were done in March? Calgary? Do you think? Fortune, is Calgary better? Yes, of course.
Yeah, Calgary's definitely better. They're just, well, that's this other thing, right? Like he's not building for next year or the year after. He's always been about this year, this like now. So that's why it's really exciting that they put everything on the line. Can you guys hear my cats? They're not about the trades.
What that was.
Yeah, and I haven't been really watching any of the other teams. I had somebody in mind, but I can't think of who it was now.
I did. It was interesting because they were saying that Calgary really concentrated on chemistry, that they felt they had good team chemistry already. So they wanted to bring people in that wouldn't disturb that. So they got people that knew people on the team already, like Tyler Toffoli and else did they got a Swedish guy that had played with Markstrom and someone else before in the off season. So I thought that's pretty cool to think about that, because you don't want to bring in someone that disrupts.
I think it's someone's cousin. Where that was with Calgary, the team that got a player's cousin, was it Yarncrook, who came in because he was a cousin of.
Could be. Yeah, there was a real connection there, which I thought was pretty smart of, I guess, Treliving to do that. Think about that. We played Minnesota a couple of nights ago, and I got to say, they looked kind of playoff. They were really like hitting everything in sight, and they have a couple of really big players. Cam Talbot was in goal, so I mean, I don't know how Fleury's going to be, but I thought they do look like kind of a playoff team, because I've hardly seen them this season. I can't remember if we played them before, but they did look good. And then, of course, I guess Florida looks even stronger. I don't know. I don't see them that much. What are their weaknesses? They were the ones that were leading those high-scoring games initially.
I don't know. I don't pay that much.
I mean, they're the top of their division.
Yeah.
So they're. Remember when I made that batshit like prediction that they were going to win the cup?
Was that you?
Right.
Was that you?
Yeah.
I made the prediction. We talked our first episode. We talked about it, and I was like, "Oh, Jillian Fisher made this like crazy prediction, so I'm going to go with her because I just think it would be funny if another Florida team won the cup."
All right.
I'm like, okay. Well, now they got Giroux, so like, go get that cup.
Yeah. I think I picked the Kraken, and I think they're like way at the bottom of everything. Yeah, but it's fine.
I can't remember who I picked, so I must have been wrong too. I don't want people that have good predictions that remember them. So
well, they were bold predictions. But I was going to say, Danica, in Florida, so they don't pay state taxes in Florida, so that's why lots of players like to go there.
Yeah, I think.
There.
Oh, so that, but he doesn't even get paid, does he? I mean, hasn't he already been paid most of his contract?
So the Flyers kept 50% to the cap. So that's also why it wasn't a good trade. So it didn't really do much for a cap either.
Although I guess it's just this year's cap. So
yeah. Well, we had a trade last year, and the guy has played 4 games for us, and he's been injured and out for the rest of the season.
Who's that?
Ryan Ellis. That was that three team trade where we gave Nolan Patrick to Vegas, who I don't know if he's been playing. And I think we gave like Felipe Myers to Nashville, and we took Ryan Ellis from Nashville. And actually I think we won that trade. Which, that's really bad because he only played like 4 games.
Okay, one other trade I want to talk about is Nico Sturm, because Stacey has a really good story about that. So do you want to talk about that, Stacey? What happened?
So the Avalanche have been supporters of the Riveters in the PHF this year. There's been kind of this joking, back and forth, like with Madison Packer wearing a jersey. It's just been this really fun little thing. And then the Avalanche got Nico Sturm from the Minnesota Wild in the trade, in a trade. And what that did was that, so Nico Sturm's girlfriend is Taylor Turnquist, who is a player on the Minnesota Whitecaps. And all of a sudden, the Colorado Avalanche started to promote the Whitecaps. So it's been a really fun sort of thing seeing like the Colorado social media team promote the Whitecaps during this trade season, and having to explain to the Riveters, no, you guys are totally still fine, but we gotta support the better half of our player. And it's been really, really interesting, like seeing like the Avalanche and a bunch of other teams get into the playoffs. Florida actually tweeted today to good luck to the Connecticut Whale. Fun facts about Connecticut Whale. Connecticut Whale is coached by former Ranger Colton Orr. In Dan, and they're in, but anyway, it's just been really, really cool seeing like the sort of the cross between like, the sort of cross promotion between different teams, NHL teams and PHF teams. So it's been
okay, but as hockey romance writers, we have to get back to this amazing romance of a female and a male hockey player. How did they get together, Stacey?
I believe the story is that they met at Clarkson. Michael Russo, who writes about the Wild for The Athletic, had a really, really fascinating story about them and like how their relationship works and how they both play and how they both support each other. It's really, really interesting.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. And you always think, oh, they should get married and have little hockey playing babies.
I mean, Emily Falzer, former women's national team in the United States, married Mike Matheson, and their babies are going to be amazing players. So,
well, I know.
We hope. Could you imagine if they weren't?
Yeah, no interest in hockey.
I play soccer.
I'll play lacrosse or like.
That's what happened to Ray Ferraro and Cami Granado. Their kids all play soccer. I don't think they play hockey.
Is that right?
So yeah, that can
I
happen.
just found out the other day that those two are married. I had no idea. I don't know where I've been.
It's like my favorite story.
Yeah.
Because, well, they're here. And I used to share the same hairdresser as Cami Granado. That's my claim to fame, except not now because the hairdresser moved. So I still have her, but Cami's going because I was there and I think it was like, put your business card in to win a free haircut. And I said, wait a sec. I said, that's Cami Granado. And she's like, oh, Cami, yeah, she's my client. She says, who is she? I said, she's like the best American hockey player of all time. And my hairdresser's like, knows nothing about hockey. And she's just looking at me. I'm like, okay, whatever. Okay, so the other thing we were going to talk about is media coverage. So here on the sports TV, on the sports radio, they always do a huge trade day thing. They're going to cover it all day. And usually like nothing happens and they end up doing their party tricks or whatever on air. So is it the same? Did ESPN do a full day?
Did. They started I actually watched a bunch of it this year. Like this year,
did you?
It was interesting because like usually in the past, what happens is the NHL Network airs the Sportsnet coverage. I don't know if they did this year, but the ESPN started the day on ESPN Plus, and then moved at like 1 o'clock, like 10 o'clock, like 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock to ESPN2. Where the John Busagross hosted show The Point had a special like extended like 2-hour show. And it was really, really interesting that they were going through it. I think who was there? It was Ryan Callahan, John Tortorella. Yes, I do. Yes, I have issues, but that's another story. Emily, oh God, what's her name? I adore her to pieces and cannot remember her name.
Emily Kaplan?
Yes, Emily Kaplan.
Yeah.
And then Greg Wyshynski was in the ESPN2 section, as was Arda Opal. So the two of them were like going back and forth. It was a really interesting sort of roundtable with that group. Oh, and Kevin Weeks, of course. How could I forget? Because that was the American sort of like thing that happened throughout the day. Like Kevin Weeks has been on NHL Network here and so he's now on ESPN. and he was the equivalent of like the trade breaker. Like he'd be like, okay, so we have a trade. And the joke was that like whether he was in his car on the way to like a hotel or like on the way to like the ESPN headquarters or in his bathroom or in the restaurant or whatever, like, he'd be like, and the trade. You know?
Well, yeah, he broke one of the, what had happened is he broke a trade from his barber shop. He was like at the barber's and he broke one of the trades. And then like people started memeing it. And I think he just leaned into it. Like, so it was, I love that he kind of took it and made it fun. Like, because like, I feel like we don't have enough of that in hockey.
Yeah.
I think we're getting it, which is nice, which is really, really cool to see. Like that, you know, it's like that the sort of the joy in the game, as it were, is like coming across here now.
Well, I think they were going to try and do that at TNT, right? Which I've never seen because I don't think we get it here. But they want more personality and stuff, and which is hockey's not known for. I mean, how's it going?
Well, I would say that some nights it goes better than others. And I think like, you know, some people are better at being personalities, like, and being broadcasters. And some people are not as good at it. Is at least that is my particular, you know, perspective on it. Like,
see that. Yeah.
Like remember when Strombo was like hosting Hockey Night in Canada and people hated it like because he didn't wear a tie or like he had, you know what I mean, like he had a different chair, so it was just like the worst thing in the world.
I know, I loved him and everybody was like, oh, we have to have Ron McLean.
Yeah.
I think like there's an old episode of like Puck Soup where they talked about how the NBA has a segment where they go who he play for. And like they just name a random guy and like Charles Barkley or whoever has to be like, oh, he plays for such and such team. And they're like, could you imagine like them trying to do that in hockey? Like they would be like laughed out of like the league because it's like, oh, it's so like stuffy and fun. I feel like I brought this up before, but I love there's like a lot of people that like when people get injured and then I'm like, I don't even know who this guy is. Like on my team.
Oh yeah.
So
like they pulled on like I'm trying to remember, was it TNT or ESPN? One of the two of them pulled in like during a broadcast. I actually no, it was TNT. They actually pulled in. Oh God, who was it? Brain is not working today. This is my deadline. Brain will have to forgive me. They pulled in someone from like the NBA broadcast and had him like strap on goalie pads and try to like take and save a shot. It was crazy, and it was like everybody else was like, oh yeah, you can do this, and he was just like, okay. No, it was actually Charles Barkley. That's why I brought it up, because Charles
about right.
They brought Barkley onto the set of like the NHL show, and we're like, okay, and like Gretzky, and then so they're like, and Gretzky can take a shot on him, and it was like, oh God, it was like, and he was such a good sport about it, but oh my God.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to take a shot from Gretzky.
Could you imagine? Like when boring is like your personality, like boring Sean Monahan is an Instagram account.
Oh, that was such a funny account.
Yeah, but that's what he's like.
Yeah, because they don't want to, they just want to be the team, right? They don't want to stick out or whatever. Yeah. But it is boring. But then, I mean, it is boring. But then if you say something wrong, everyone jumps on it, right?
Yeah. But you know who I loved do you remember Paul Bissonnette, like Biz Nasty? Like he had like he has personality, and he didn't rock the boat too much. Like he wasn't a Sean Avery. Like he was funny and he was fun and he made hockey fun. Do you know what I mean? Like we could stand to use a few more of those guys.
Yeah. I mean, I really like Kevin Bieksa. I mean, obviously, because he was a Canuck, but I think he's done a really good job on Hockey Night in Canada. He's really quite funny, and he's
quite funny.
Yeah, and he sort of jabs at the other announcers too, which gives it more of a team thing. So it's nice that way.
Yeah.
And so I guess one question is, do you consume a lot of sports media? Do you like listen to?
Are we moving on from trades? Because I had stuff to say.
Oh, sorry. Kelly, what do you think about the trade situation?
Sorry. What I wanted to say on that was like, so I don't follow the trade stuff like super closely as far as other teams go and what's happening. I mean, some of those big trades, yeah, it's interesting. So I kind of just follow my own team and see what's happening on the trade deadline. And this year we kind of knew what was going to happen.
Yeah.
And the Jets actually did make quite a few trades. And I don't think it really made them much better, but we knew that one of the big trades that was going to happen for the Jets was Andrew Cox. So he's one of our best players, but he's going to be a free agent this summer, and they would not be able to sign him again for the kind of money that he's going to want. And so to risk losing him and getting nothing for him, they had to trade him. So he ended up going to the Rangers. There's Stacey. So Stacey, now this is why I always find the trade stuff interesting, because as a romance author, I'm interested in like how this affects the players and their families and relationships and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. So Stacey asked me on Twitter when that happened if Jacob Trouba, who also used to play for the Jets, and Andrew Copp were friends. And I actually didn't know. But apparently, it turns out that they have played together since they were 12 years old.
Oh, that's
so they
cool.
really were like really good friends. So they were, they played youth hockey, moved to that U.S. National Development Training Program when they were 16. They both went to the University of Michigan. Trouba was a 9th pick in the 2012 draft. Copp was 104th pick in the 2013, both by the Jets. And they ended up both playing in the 2015-16 season with the Jets. And then 4 years later, Trouba was traded to the Rangers. So then this year in the trade deadline, Copp ends up being traded to the Rangers, and they're back together again. They've been like basically friends and playing together since they were 12 years old.
And I was going to talk about this later, but so it's interesting, like the way that Fortune, like we were all talking about like how this year in particular, people were very like management was really particular about locker room chemistry and finding people that already matched with the players in the room. Rangers Twitter, generally speaking, started to look into all of the Ranger trades, including the Tyler Mott and the Frank Petrano trade. The common denominator with all of them was Jacob Trouba. And they have all of Trouba's friends from the U.S. National Development Team.
There's two other guys too that they played with.
Yeah, it was Petrano and Mott, both of whom, Mott from the Canucks and Vetrano from the Panthers. And like Trouba on Instagram was posting pictures of both of them, and Vetrano and Trouba and Copp drove together to the practice facility. Like they're all back together. They're all friends. They're all like back together. It's kind of awesome. So like this,
I just love those stories.
Yeah, and like there's a theory floating around. We have 6 assistant captains right now. And no captain. The theory floating around right now is because of these trades, Trouba is the captain because they went out and got all of his friends.
Wow.
Interesting. If that's the case, that's great because I adore him. Of course, I also love Kreider and Zibanejad. I also love Adam Fox, but I don't think he's ready for the kind of pressure that being captain brings. But yes, because of his politics, because of the way that he acts, I love the fact that if Trouba is the presumptive captain, yes, please. So anyway.
Yeah. Anyway, I thought that was like super interesting, even though it was super sad to lose Copp. I love those kinds of stories. And then like, it reminded me of my Bears hockey where the 3 guys who played junior hockey together all end up playing on the same team. And I mean, it's kind of, I might've thought it was a little far-fetched, but
maybe not.
Like that happens in real life.
Let's just get right to talking about hockey romance books as related to trades, because that is true. I think it's the question that gets asked by new players when they come in, do you know anyone on the team? And so I guess for somebody like Claude Giroux, who's always played on one team, it's a lot harder, but people do have past where they played in juniors, and all the best players probably play together, you know, if they're from the same region or whatever. So when you're writing a romance, you often have an inciting incident which starts off your book, so that one of your characters or both of your characters go through a big change, and that would definitely be a trade. So Kelly, how many books have you written that begin with a trade? Is there just the...
Well, I could think of 2, but I'm not 100% sure that's all, because I can't even remember my own book. But the most recent one was You Had Me at Hockey, and again, it's one of the Bears. Josh Heller gets traded to the New York Bears. And for him, it's a huge deal because he had gone through that terrible tragedy as a teenager when he was in that bus crash and killed so many people. For a couple of reasons, it's a big deal for him. One of them is that he has just tried to make his life very stable and predictable and routine. So he knows what's going to happen all the time. He likes to plan ahead and be prepared for everything. So this just comes out of the blue and blows up his whole life, which is was really hard for him. And the other thing that made it hard was one of those other guys that played junior hockey with him and was in the crash with him, already played for that team, and they haven't really spoken ever since then. There's complicated stuff that went on around that time and everything that they went through. So it's awkward because of that too. Now he ends up playing with this guy that they should have a good history together, but things are sort of painful. So that one, the trade was, like a real shock to him and a big upset to his whole life.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you're suddenly in a new relationship, like you're supposed to be part of this hockey family.
Yeah.
But it's a complete change. You're in a new place and you don't have friends and you've had to move and everything that goes on.
Exactly. Yeah. So there's the whole start of the story is a lot about that, about how
to do that.
Know somebody on the team, but doesn't really like him. Doesn't know anybody else. Doesn't know that he's in this big city and it's cold and
Yeah, and I think a lot of these playoff trades, the families don't move with them, especially if you've got kids in school or something. So you're totally alone.
Yeah, a lot of times that does happen. The wife and the kids will stay. I think that's what happened with Stacey, I think. They might be here now, but I know the first time he got traded to the Jets, they didn't come here. Like he was living here by himself.
Yeah, it makes it hard. Or if the wife, even if you don't have kids, but your wife has a job, she might not be able to go.
Yeah, I don't remember who it was, but like a while ago, there was one where he got traded, and I guess the other wives and girlfriends were giving this particular spouse like a hard time, and she like was on Twitter like, I have a job, like I can't just leave. I don't remember who it was though, but I just like remember that happening and being like, oh, that's really interesting, because I guess some of them don't work or they're just full-time mom, which I totally understand. But she had like a corporate job or something, and she's like, I can't just like pick up and leave.
Yeah, you have to finish up or do whatever. Yeah, and I mean, sometimes when people are speculating about trades, they do say that too. They sort of check into the spouse and see if people like a team or an area or whatever.
Well, that happened to you. Sorry, with Joe McGinley, like I remember he just bought a brand new, like just built a brand new house. And everyone's like, no, he's not leaving, and then he got traded right away after he built his dream house. So there's a lot of that too.
But that wasn't his choice, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh, his choice? I'm not sure. Because he'll never say. He's just a guy. He'll never speak out against people, which is fine. That's his prerogative.
But it's not like he had a no trade or anything. I mean, he wasn't.
No, and but Claude Giroux, he was there the whole time. There's a certain level of respect there. So if he didn't, and I think he got traded to Boston because it was there. I think they were making a run. I think is what happened. Or did he go to Pittsburgh? I can't remember.
It's so weird because he'd been with the Flames for so long, and suddenly he was with all these other teams after that.
Yeah. Well, he's taking the Ray Bork tour, right? Like to see if he got just to get it. I don't want to call it a garbage cup because a cup is a cup, but
Yeah. Why not? So So does anybody have any trade books that they have read, hockey romances with trades? I would like to give a shout out to my two critique partners who have both written books that start out with a trade. And one is On the Surface by Kate Willoughby, where a guy has messed up, so he gets traded to another team. And then, so it's a new start. And, but it is, I think it's the first book in her series, which is a good way to introduce you. As the player meets everyone, you meet all the players too. And the other book is A Valuable Trade by Jaymee Jacobs, who is another reading partner of mine. And it's about a guy who gets traded to Dallas. And not only does he get traded, his girlfriend says, I don't want to go, and breaks up with him. And but luckily, when he's so lonely and out of it, he finds romance with the woman who's basically the move coordinator for the team and helps him settle in, and they fall in love. So, but totally those books were showing the hero as kind of a fish out of water. He's in a completely new place. He's lonely, he's unhappy, and he has to find community and love. Anyone else have any books that they enjoyed with trades in them?
Definitely Kate Willoughby. But I couldn't think of any others. I'm not to say I haven't read them, but like I already said, my mind is.
I'm the same. I have to like look up everything. I have to look up.
But yeah.
I just read the first book in Odette Stone's Vancouver Wolves, and the first book is he gets into a fist fight with his teammate and gets traded. And like the heroine is the owner GM's like daughter, and she's being forced to work for the team for a year. Like she has no interest in it, and she basically is like his handler. But I felt like she didn't really introduce the other characters, because I was like, who's the next book? Like I felt like I didn't get the other guys yet. I have one coming up, and I realize trade is a part in Against the Boards, but it's not like the beginning. It's he had subtly asked for a trade potentially and decides he doesn't want to. He wanted to move to Boston because his abuelo is kind of older, and he's like really worried about his family. And he just mentions that he like, here's my list of the places I'd be willing to go. And that's like at the end of the book, and it gets out and she is pissed about it. Because she just moved from Canada to Philly, and she's like, I'm not moving again. But he doesn't get traded.
Sorry, who's pissed? His grandmother or?
Yeah, his grandfather.
Oh,
so like his grandfather was sick, so he wanted to kind of, he was like, here's my list of the places if you were thinking of trading me, I would like to go to Boston. And that wasn't supposed to be something that got leaked to the press, and it does. And the heroine is really pissed at him about it. So
to do that.
But it's fine. They work it out. He doesn't get traded.
So that's just like the kind of the dark moment for them when she finds it.
Yeah, and like she tries to break up with him, and he's like, no. Like, I love him. I have another one coming up, and he's actually from Philly, and he gets traded to Philly, and his dad played for the team, so there's a lot of stuff with his dad, so him coming back to Philly was actually like good, and he gets to like play for the team he grew up watching. So like I just wanted to write that.
That's nice. I mean, that's what they always ask. If you come to a city where you grew up.
Yeah.
Although sometimes you find out that the person didn't cheer for the team. Like, oh no, it turned out my dad was a big whatever fan, so he never liked that team.
No, his like dad played for the team, and he grew up like in the arena, so it's like kind of a dream come true for him. So
true. And it is true what Fortune and Danica both said about players not getting able to finish out their careers with the team that they started with and captain and everything. It's too bad. Like I feel with the cap and everything that people don't, they're just sort of ruthless about, we have to take advantage of every dollar, and we can't have that because they force us to like and identify with players, and then they just get rid of them and say, oh, you're gonna like this new guy even better. Well, I don't know, I like the old guy.
It's hard when you get it.
Sad because she's still missed, like Chris Tana.
Sounds like a romance novel.
Yeah, I know, every romance novel. So Okay, so now on to our regular features, the NHL's best dressed.
And once again, even though I did it this morning, I can't remember.
I can't share it.
Oh God, just a minute.
I forgot to make sure to ask.
It's been like a month since we did this. So.
It's part of the regular feature.
Mia, can I share it?
I think we need another regular feature other than like the beginning where we don't know what's going on.
Okay, it looks like I
You
can
should be
share
able
it
to
now.
share, Danica.
Okay. You guys
Oh,
can
there
see
we go.
that? Yeah. Okay. So this was Giroux at his 1000th game with the Flyers, which was his last game with the Flyers.
Oh.
So I was like, oh, I gotta put him in.
I haven't seen him for so long. He looks different.
He's like older now. Like,
Yeah.
he was like the team dad.
All right.
I'll go next. There's Johnny Gaudreau, Mr. Johnny Hockey.
That
So
is
he
a fine picture of him, I must say.
isn't it? So he, I'm a very Flame affiliated as I do every year, but but he did score 5 points yesterday. So we are saying, so hopefully he gets a hoist a cup maybe later on this year, and we can see that picture. I just jinxed them. It's okay. I just jinxed them. My brother's gonna kill me.
Of course, I couldn't help myself. When I talked about this earlier, when I saw this picture of Jacob Trouba on the left, Andrew Kopp on the right, I could not help myself but because they looked like they were having so much fun.
They do look happy, don't they?
Yeah, like all the stories that they're telling. He's just thrilled to have his buddies with him again. So I wanted to capture that moment.
Is that a present? Has somebody got a present?
Yeah, I believe it's some kind of present, but I'm not quite sure what it is. So if anybody can figure out what it is,
I can't tell.
Looks like it's wrapped in newspaper though. So
Yeah.
Not good.
I don't know.
But this is.
I gave up on Canucks pictures because it was just Oliver Ekman-Larsson every time. So I've been looking at, and on Twitter, I saw Patrick Laine's outfit, and he's got like a lot of amazing outfits. And I mean, this is a little too Vegas craps dealer for me, but I thought, well, it's really different.
He's got an interesting look. I saw Pasta had like a black like floral suit on, and I was almost gonna use it, but I decided to go Giroux for this one. But I was like, oh, that's bold and interesting.
I know. I mean, I love sequins, and this is pretty glittery. I don't know what it is. So.
Laine's an interesting guy, I think. Like,
what's going on with his hair too?
I was like, that was my first thought when I saw him for the first time in like years. When he got traded, I was like, wait a second, that's Patrick Laine?
Yeah. Well, actually, his sunglasses sort of coordinate with the jacket. So, there you go. I'm not saying best dressed. I'm saying most interestingly.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to say that about my picture too, which is the top left, and that's Josh Morrissey. Again, I think I've picked him before. I kind of like him. I like the striped suit. That's like, I guess, another bold choice, I think. But I wanted to point out that I don't know if you can see it very well, but he has no socks on. And so all the pictures that were posted from the game the other night, there was this one and the one after of Dylan DeMello, who also has no socks on. And I'm like, this is Winnipeg and there's still snow on the ground and it's cold out, but hey. It's
fashion.
Fashion. I was snowing in New York in certain parts of the tri-state today, and I don't think Jacob Trouba is wearing socks either.
No, he's not. Yeah.
I feel like that's a man thing.
That's
I don't
what
know.
they do, I guess.
Yeah. I wrote a book about a guy. One of the heroes in my stories, he refused to wear socks, so he was always bare ankles. But he lives in California, so hey.
No, I said like a lot of I think it's a style. Like I see high school kids when I drop Matilda off at school, and like none of the kids, all their ankle bones are showing, and it's very wintry here.
Yeah.
I think that reminds me of that Winnipeg football fan who said he was wearing shorts and he wasn't going to wear long pants until Winnipeg won the Grey Cup again. And it was like 10 years. And his wife was like, oh yeah, he's shoveling the driveway in those stupid shorts.
Oh my God.
That's hilarious.
Okay, so finally, let's wrap up with some book news and updates. Do you want to lead us off, Fortune? Because you have big news.
I do have big news. The book that I finished, last summer is finally coming out. So here's Stuck With You, and it comes out April 5th. It's so I have Clark Dorsey, ex-NHLer. He starts the book tossing his gear, signing some stuff, and he's done with hockey, never wanted to play. And then of course he goes home to tend to his brother, but his brother has moved out and stuck Lena in his apartment, who grew up in Vancouver, and he was her fake boyfriend while she was growing up. So she has to deal with that. And it's a very sweet and funny story, if I do say so myself. And so that is available for pre-order on all the major retailers, digital and paperback. And I haven't announced it yet, but book 2 is also up for pre-order now. So if you go to any of my links and websites, you guys can grab that. And that one has Clark's older brother, who didn't play hockey, in the like the oldest Venus sister. He's in the shadows of everybody, and he's trying to be his own person. So that's that. And and the third. So all 3 books are coming out this year. Finally, publishing is so slow, you guys. Like, I'm not indie, so I'm sure they come out much faster. But like I said, I've been telling you guys earlier, every time I do promo for it, I feel like I want to barf. So hopefully that goes away soon.
So are the hero and heroine both from Vancouver?
Pardon me?
Are the hero and heroine both from Vancouver?
No, they're from Conception Bay, which is actually a place in Newfoundland. Oh, you guys can't see it. So I borrowed the name Conception Bay from a place in Newfoundland, but but I borrowed the name from Newfoundland, but they're in, it's a fictional town in Washington.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I saw a lot of people are like, oh, Conception Bay, Newfoundland. I was like,
that's
no.
what I thought.
But yeah, I wanted to have because it's set in the States, I do have, I wanted to make an homage to Canada. So Lena is from Vancouver. He played in Vancouver. It's supposed to say the Canucks, but he does play NHL. And then we have Conception Bay in Newfoundland. And also an homage to the town I live in is that Lena doesn't drive. She just rides a bike everywhere. And a lot of people do that here. So.
Yeah, well, you could have gone for a dildo in Newfoundland. So I think Conception Bay is better.
Yeah.
Any other book news?
I guess I can shout out my book that's coming out. It's just a little over 2 weeks away.
Oh, really? Which book is this?
12.
Yeah.
Good Hands. I will, hang on, let me share the screen and I can show you the cover. I've ordered paperbacks, but I have not received them yet. The green share.
And is this in one of your series?
Yeah, it's in
the Bears too, right?
Yeah.
Ooh,
nice
in good
cover.
hands.
How come I
you all
seen this before? Bears 11. Wow. 11 or 2?
It's 2.
2. Okay.
I know somebody else said that too. Bears 11?
How did I miss all those books? Oh,
I was just trying to distinguish between the first 3 Bears hockey books, which had completely different covers and sort of tone, and these ones are back to the kind of the sexier look.
I feel like these look more like your normal style.
Yeah.
Like the other ones, I was like, these don't feel like Kelly to me. Like I still love them.
Yeah.
They didn't feel like.
They didn't look like my kind of. Yeah.
Yeah. I remember you had asked in your group, like, what would you think of these? And I was like, they look kind of like clean. And I don't expect that from you.
Well, that's not Kelly's style.
Yeah. But I think that was publisher, not you.
Yeah.
So you didn't really have control.
Exactly.
So what's can you give us a little preview into the book?
So No.
Okay, it's like top secret.
Nate. So Nate is another one of the Bears hockey players, and he's I just want to have fun kind of guy, no commitments. He's been traded quite a few times in his career and doesn't get too attached to places and people. And he meets Lola when they're both on a trip in somewhere in the Caribbean, which I can't remember now, which I tell you my mind. So they have more wine. They have what is supposed to be a one-night stand, but they end up running into each other again back in New York. And so then they're like, well, you can have a one-night stand, doesn't have to be just one. We could have like a fling. And so they do. And of course it turns into much more.
All right. Sounds good.
Oops, they got feelings.
Yeah.
They've got feelings.
Yeah.
Do you have anything coming up, Danica?
Not until like July.
Oh, okay. But you just had a book out recently, right? How's that doing?
I think it's doing good. That heroine is kind of an a-hole, so I think a lot of people have trouble with her.
I just read that book, Danica.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she's a strong heroine. Readers often have problems with strong heroines, right?
Yeah. And I did a live about it, and the person who did it was with Buzzing about Romance. Becky had beta rated it a while ago for me, and she was much harsher in the original. And Becky was like, well, readers love alpha holes, so why can't they love women like that?
The women, they let the men do anything, but then they
Yeah.
complain about the women if they're just a little whatever.
Yeah.
I know, and I have another book where my beta reader absolutely hated the book. So, and I was like, did you read the first one? Because this is like who she is. Like, so I'll see what my developmental editor thinks about it. Yeah.
That's good. Stacey, you're finishing editing something? Which book is that?
I am currently on deadline for a book called The It's a Mistake, which is supposed to come out in June of 2023. My hero is a recently retired hockey player who encounters the sister of the agent whose career he derailed.
Oh.
They are both taking a B'nai Mitzvah class because they both missed the chance when they were younger to have their bar and bat mitzvahs, so they're going to do it as adults. And he's got a secret agenda of wanting to create a Jewish Hockey Players Association. And so he enlists her help to do that because she's a project manager, and she needs someone for her young nephew to interview for his class, because the teacher is in complete disbelief that he could actually find a Jewish athlete to interview. Mm-hmm. So they form a reluctant alliance, and also feelings happen, and also past retreads happen as well. So it's a fun little, it's an interesting story, and I'm having a grand old time with it. In the meanwhile, I talk about them all the time, but I have not actually brought in the Empire's hockey books that I'm a part of with Isabel Kelly, Kenzie McLear, and Cassandra Carr. So it's going all in. I sing with Puck, and it actually starts with a trade. Hero was traded. The brain's not working today. My hero, Chris Emerson, in the first book was traded from LA back to the Empires after interesting little comments that he made got completely taken out of context. And so he is back in New York, and the heroine is a romance writer whose uncle is the team owner. So, whoa, yes, shenanigans ensue.
Those romance writers, they're
exactly. Ensue. And soon I will be talking about my next Instagram series, including Fortune, hint, hint, once this book goes in.
Good.
Awesome.
My next read. So
Great. Well, I think we'll wrap up. We're just a bit over time, and our next live stream will be Sunday, April 24th, because we're skipping 1 week because it's Easter. So,
Right.
or I don't know.
If anybody watching or listening has any good romance books that involve Shay, post them up in the comments. Let us know. We're always looking for more, and we will add into the comments the books that we talked about as well.
Yeah, we'll link up to the books that we talked about, but it is harder. Like, it's easy to find female hockey players, but it's harder to figure out if there was a trade in it unless you've read it and can remember it.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you very much for tuning in today, and we'll see you in a month. Time to go. Outro music.
Yeah.